أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Learn Psychology with Sajad Ahmed. Today I'm going to teach you a very important topic, and that is on the Functionalism School of Thought. Functionalism School of Thought. So let's start our class. Okay, Functionalism School of Thought. आते हैं हम Functionalism School of Thought. Then the first definition of functionalism, according to the Woodwards in 1938, a psychology that attempt to give an accurate and systematic answer to the question, what do men do and why do they do it, is called a functional psychology, and the psychologists who work from the personal perspective of mind find the functional school of thought, form the functional school of thought. Then, who is the father of the functionalism? So William James, an American psychologist, founded is in opposition to the structuralism. He founded the functionalism school of thought in opposition to the uh, structuralism. He wrote his famous book, Principle of Psychology. Many people work in this school of thought, and we studied them under the co-founder. The first one who worked was William James, and then Edward Lee Thorndike. So Edward Lee Thorndike, a researcher in the animal behavior and learning process, which led to the law of effect. What is law of effect? The law of effect means that through a process of trial and error method, subject find more satisfying behavior responses to the specific stimuli, and these become the most used response in the future. John Dewey. Then come the John Dewey, an American philosopher, psychologist, and educational reformer. Dewey, 1896, published a paper on the name of the reflex arc concept in psychology, is considered the first major work of functionalism. His paper, The Reflex Arc Concept in Psychology, is considered to be the first major work of functionalism. Then come the function of the mind. Okay, then we study the key concept, come to the key concept, and the first key concept is the function of the mind. According to the functionalism, the function of the mind is more important. The function of the mind is the adjustment to the environment. Mean it is the function of the mind which help us to adjust to our environment. Number three, the role of mind is discussed in functionalism, and the role of mind is more important than its constituent components. Then come the fourth basic key concept, and that is basically influenced by the Darwin theory of evolution. The functionalism was basically influenced by the Darwin theory of evolution. And according to them, the mind also grows and evolves from the previous time. So as the ages pass, the mind evolve, and the people, just like the other animals, evolve the same in the parallel way. The mind also evolve and grows. Okay, then comes that it is not static and ever changing. That the mind is not a static thing that we can say that if will remain the same. So it is an ever changing thing. It is an ever changing thing. Then the ever-changing thing, we come to the seventh key concept, and that is, as we experience, we learn better. Mean the learning become better and better with the experience of time. For example, if a child start eating with a spoon for the first time, so he will uh, uh, he will not be able even to grasp the spoon firmly. Then after some period of time, the child will become better in eating with the spoon. So these are the key concepts of functionalism. Now come to the principles of functionalism. There are many principles, but here I will share a few of them. The first principle of the functionalism is the task of the functional psychology is to study the function of the mind. And biological number two principle is the biological orientation was the characteristic feature of the functionalism from its beginning. Mean that from the very start, the functionalists used to study the mind from the biological perspective. Then come the practical applications. So the practical application were fostered and sought by the functionalist, that the psychology knowledge should be practically applied for the to the human life. And then the functionalists increased the fourth principle. The functionalists increased the scope of psychology by fostering such areas as differential, social, and psychometric psychology. The PEP principle is the empowerment of the personal life, education, and so on. And the sixth principle is the broadening of the psychology to include research on animal, children, and abnormal humans. So these things were not included in the previous school of thought, that was structuralism. So in the functionalism, most of the things were included, like experiments on animals, experiments on the children, and normal human beings. And from this, so this make the psychology a broad field. The seventh principle, they brought in the methodology. They brought in the methodology in contrast to the in contrast to that of structuralism. The functionalists brought in the methodology by including the thing that is useful, such as puzzle boxes, mazes, and mental tests, while the structuralists use only one method of study, and that was introspection. Introspection. So if we compare the functionalism to the structuralism, so some in few points we can say that the structuralism work on the component of the mind. To them, the component of the mind is more important, while to the functionalists, the role of the mind is very important. What the thing is the question of the structuralism, and what the thing is for. What the thing is for is the question of the functionalism. And the third point, what the mental processes are. I what the mental processes are mean that how the mental processes work. And functionalists say that it's not important that what the mental processes are, but we should have to see what these processes are for, why they are, and how they do what they do. I hope you would have learned from we would have understand the difference from this chart. The first chart for to the left side of your screen is that of structuralism, and the right side is the functionalism. So if you go back and look to the component, the structure, the component of this comparison table, you will see the first point component, which is the core idea of the structuralism, while the rule of the mind is the core idea of the functionalism, and the thing like that. So, guys, I hope you would have understand the topic